Okay, so this is how I run Santa Tracker. So the first thing I do is I always reload to restart instead of hitting the restart button. And then there's this wipe animation. And while that's going, while it's wiping, you can complete the first level. Like that. And if you're fast enough, you can also hit the next button before the wipe finishes and already be on to level 2. You can hit all of the next buttons for every level a little bit before they appear, and so I usually spam click in the area while I wait for them to be clickable. I missed that time. I think, yeah. This one, I start here. Oops, I messed that up. And I drag down to here, move the mouse up a bit, drag down, and so it ends up looking just like drag down, move up, drag down. Let me see, I'm gonna restart. Sometimes I'll mess it up and I'll like drag a little too far, but then that's drag down, drag up, drag down, and it still ends up working out, just in a different way, which is kind of nice. For this one, you just need to go north once, and I usually try to move to the top because that's a little closer than the bottom. And then next, and then spam click in this area and you can click it. I usually go to if you count up the boxes, I go to the third one, bottom of it and a bit over, and that's where I spam click. Here, so you drag in, it's 2 norths and then a west, and so you put in the first north, and then I try to go for the top. Sometimes I end up moving the bottom. I'm not super precise with it, but top is closer, and then I put in the west at the bottom. It might be a little faster to put in the west first, because that way you're not moving as far. I think the fastest might be actually put in the first north and then put in the second west, because that'll bring the bottom a little bit closer down to the west, and then put in the second north, and that won't really affect where you put in the north, but that might be a little less consistent. It might be. So that might be more resets when you mess up, but yeah, this one, it's just 5 north, and I try to aim for the top because that's the closest. Is that 5? Yeah. This one, drag. Whenever you have a loop at the very end, so this one should be set to 5, but you can overshoot, so you don't need to be you can go a little faster and don't be super precise clicking. If you click on the 6, it'll also work. Here, so what this will end up looking like is something like this. So you start with the north, end with the north. These are both loop 4s. They have to be 4. You need to be precise with these ones. And the first one is east, second one is west. This one, 2 north. You can also just actually drag in 2 north, and that's the same number of blocks, because you're either doing 2 north or 1 loop in 1 north. And since the loop stays at 2, you don't need to adjust the drop down to anything, and so that works. Whatever your preferences are, but the way I do this is I drag in both of the norths, and then if you drag in all 3 loops, then this is a long distance you're traveling with the west. So what I do instead is I drag in a loop and then I put the west in, and then I drop down to the 4, and then I grab another loop and put it above, put the north in, another loop above, and I do it backwards like that. And that's a little less distance that you're traveling, I think. Okay, here. So, shortest way to do this. So, or I guess the normal way, is you put in a south, loop 3 east, loop 4 north. And the south, since it's a lower down block, or no, the east, since it's a lower down block, you can't really change where you put in the south. It's always going to be the same distance because it's the first block. But then if you put down the south first, that's a little less distance that you need to travel to put in the loop east. Like putting a loop up here and then putting south in versus putting south in, a little less distance to put in this. But I, just like the last one, I like to sort of go backwards from there so that you're traveling less distance. So here, I'll select the number. You can put in 4, 5, or 6 because it's fine to overshoot on the final loop, but 4 is the smallest. And then I actually put in 3 easts instead of doing a loop. Or I put in this loop, select the number, and I put in an east, or no, a north, and then I put in 3 easts. It's fairly similar because instead of dragging 2 blocks in but also having to do a drop down, which is more, you do 3 blocks, and I think this is faster. You don't have to be as precise. It's probably comparable distance, but a little more maybe. But yeah. And drag the east into the top. So you put the first east in, and then instead of putting the east on bottom, put it on top. Because it's a little less distance. And then same for the second one. This one, because if you do it like this isn't the most efficient way to do it. You know, there's 3 blocks here instead of just 2 with a loop and an east. And it's going to give you a warning about that, like, hey, did you know you can do this in only so many blocks? And the next button's going to end up in a different place. So instead of clicking around here on the bottom of the 3rd row, I like to move a little closer and top of the 2nd row and click around here. I messed that up in my PB run. I was clicking in the old place, and so that meant I was a little slower to hit the next button. But yeah, clicking around here is the best way to go, I think. Like that. This one is straightforward. Put this in, select 4, 5, or 6 in here, it doesn't matter. And then put in a north and then put in a west. That's how I do it. There might be a better way. I don't really know. Yeah, and the next. This one, I put in a loop, and then I put in east and west, and then I put that at the very bottom. Go to the north, because if I put the second loop in, that's going to bring this one further down, and that's more distance for the north. So I put in north first, and then I put the second loop in, and then I put in north there. Yeah, and you want to put the west in as well before the second loop, because that's going to bring the west further down, and that's more distance for the west as well. And then I think putting the west in here is also better for, you want to do that, so east comes first, and then west will bring it a little closer to the loop that you're going to put at the bottom, right? Versus not with the west, it's that distance. But yeah, so something like that. Oh, again here, if you want to do it differently, loop 2 north can be done differently. You know, you can put in 2 north blocks instead. That's another way to go. I think this is the most optimized way to do it, though. I could be wrong. This one, drag in the jump, make this forward. This one, so it's going to look like this in the end. Jump 2 forward, go to the east once. And if you put in the east first, since that's first, that'll be the same distance every time, no matter what order you do. But putting in the east first changes the distance for this one from this to this. So I think it's better to put east first and then this. So just the normal, I guess, intuitive order forwards is best. This one, I don't think there are many different ways to do it. Just drag in a jump, 2 forward. That's it. This one, you can do different ways. You can do a jump 1 and then jump 2, which that's only 2 blocks. Oh. Jump 3. Or you can do, and this is what I usually do, this, you can select any number here except for the 2. Just anything else. And then make this jump 1 forward. Even though these are both 2 blocks, the other one, it's like, hey, did you know you can only do this in 2 blocks? Even though it is 2 blocks. But it wants you to do it this way. And so with the other one, the next button, the finish button, is going to end up in a different location, around here, instead of up here in the normal location. So that's something to be careful of if you do it the other way. But yeah, and then at the very end, once again with the finish, you can click the button before it actually shows up. But finish, that's when the time stops. Something interesting that I messed this up. Found while trying to optimize these is, it's a bit later. I need to get back to it. I think it's level 9, maybe. Yeah, here. So I was thinking, so normal way, loop 4, northwest. So you can avoid the drop down, I was thinking, by dragging in 2 loops instead, and then putting in northwest, and I was thinking this might be faster. You don't need to do the drop down. This should also work just as well, I think, but it doesn't. So if I run this, for some reason it gets stuck here. It like skips one of the wests or something, and it goes a bit wacky. But if I then hit play again from here, it'll teleport to the end and then back here. And then a little bit after that, the present will appear in its hand, and it gives a little hand sign like it completed the level. So it did work, but it still makes you try again. You can't progress from here, as far as I know. So that's interesting. If somebody like actually watches this and figures out, I've been too lazy to like go in the JavaScript or anything and look at what's going on here. But if anyone feels like doing that and can figure this out and maybe turn this, figure out what's wrong with this and maybe find an actual optimized route that exploits this glitch somehow or something, I don't know. That'd be pretty cool. That might be faster, I guess. Yeah, that's it.